If texts are supposed to help us understand human experience, what is the power of a play over and above other forms of text? And what is the virtue of The Merchant of Venice as an example of a play and what it can do for us? In sooth, I know not why I am so sad. O love, be moderate, allay thy ecstasy, in measure reign thy joy. Thy desires are wolvish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. Still I have borne it with a patient shrug. And therefore, like herself, wise, fair, and true, shall she be placed in my constant soul. Each of those lines is said by a different character in this play. A play allows you to speak words that are written to be spoken in the first person from a whole variety of different people. A play is by its very structure and nature giving you the opportunity to experience the world from the point of view of any number of different people in different situations. I'm Dr. Anna Kamaralli. This is the third video concluding the set on The Merchant of Venice for all strut, no fret. As we've been looking at The Merchant of Venice, we've been focusing a little more on content and interpretation than in most of my other videos. So I'd like to send you back to my earlier pieces. I would particularly recommend taking a look at the second and third installments of the series on Twelfth Night, because there are lots of tools there and tips that can help you look at the portions of The Merchant of Venice that you want to examine closely and get inside them and understand them. I'm also going to send you back right to something we've almost forgotten about, which is my 5 steps into Shakespeare. So the early videos will walk you through a list of things you can do to help you tackle a text like this. And today we're particularly going to look at the final one on that list, number 5, reading the speeches aloud. We're going to look at just a couple of examples of slightly longer passages to see what we can do to experience those in the first person as a character and see what that does for us in terms of seeing how this play presents paradoxical and contradictory points of view that add up to a whole that will tell us something about the nature of society, relationships, communication, and human experience. It's great to read and study a play text closely. It's even better to go and see it performed. But the final piece of the puzzle is always going to be, now we have the resources available to us in the modern age of each owning a printed copy of the text and a pencil, to speak the words aloud. Choose a speech, say it aloud, feel what it's like to inhabit that experiential position of the character who is living that particular moment. There are 2 speeches in this play that are transcendentally famous, that have escaped the bounds of the play to the point where everyone knows them at least a bit. There is Shylock's "Has not a Jew eyes" speech, and there is Portia's "The quality of mercy is not strained." Now, unfortunately, neither of them are ideal models for the process that I've been demonstrating in these videos. Shylock's speech is wonderful for the immersive point of view that we've been talking about. However, it is not written in verse, it's actually in prose. And that means the helpful rules I've been telling you about, marking out the scansion and reading the ends of the lines, will not work in application to this speech. You do need to look more at the sentence structure and simply go through it, idea by idea. Fortunately, it's a very straightforward, comprehensible speech, so that should still work for you. Portia's speech about mercy, unfortunately, doesn't express anything much about a personal point of view or emotive state, because her purpose in that moment is a public one. It's to demonstrate a rhetorical flourish that will impress the listeners rather than convert anyone who isn't already on her side. So while it's a very fine example of rhetorical writing, it won't give you insights into an emotional state. So instead of looking at the most famous speeches of the Merchant of Venice, we're going to look at a couple that perhaps should be famous because of the great job they do of showing us the inside experience of how a character is thinking and feeling. This is during that same court scene where Portia makes her elegant appeal to mercy. And Shylock has this to say about their arrogant hypocrisy. You have among you many a purchased slave, which, like your asses and your dogs and mules, you use in abject and in slavish parts, because you bought them. Shall I say to you, let them be free? You will answer, the slaves are ours. So do I answer you. The pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. 'Tis mine, and I will have it. There's that thing that Shakespeare does so often when he gets to the concluding line in an important point that a character is making. You see, we go here into a series of really simple monosyllables. 'Tis mine, and I will have it. Complexity is always for the middle of a speech with Shakespeare. He always ends with the strong statement in simple language. Did you note that what I was doing there was following the scansion in order to get the best understanding of the line? Now that is where you mark out where the stressed and unstressed beats fall. So go back to the 12th night videos to get in detail how you do that. But basically I'll just show you on this really simple line here, the pound of flesh. So the pound of flesh which I demand of him. And you always hit that last heavy beat of the line, especially to get the strongest sense. Speeches like this allow us to experience the play from Shylock's point of view, so we get to see his perspective on what hollow, pompous, self-righteous hypocrites these Christian Venetians are. But my whole point to you has been that this is a play of multiple and competing points of view, and so for some of the characters, some of the time, this is a love story. And so let's take an example here of something that has a little more direct emotion in it. Let's look at what Bassiano says when he finds out that he is going to get to marry Portia. What I'm going to do is mark up the scansion, that is the rhythm of this speech, using the technique that I showed you in the earlier videos, where what we do is we figure out where the stressed beats fall. And the first thing that we have here is what I call a trochaic reversal, which means that you start on a heavy beat and it gives you a rat-a-tat-tat pattern at the beginning. So the way it goes is this. Madam, you have bereft me of all words. And then we have another one just the same. Only my blood speaks to you in my veins. And then we get back onto a normal kind of iambic pattern. And there is such confusion in my powers. Notice here that powers, although we would treat it as two syllables normally, here gets read as one syllable in order to make it fit the pattern. As after some oration fairly spoke by a beloved prince, there doth appear among the buzzing pleased multitude. Notice to make the scansion work here, we have to treat pleased as two syllables, pleased. So here we have a spot where we compress a word to make it fit, and here we have a spot where we extend the word to make it fit. Among the buzzing pleased multitude, where every something being blent together turns to a wild of nothing save of
joy. It's lovely the way we end on joy there. Expressed and not expressed. Now here, expressed and not expressed, you see, then we have two closed syllables come up against each other, as well as the punctuation there, that give us a caesura. So that's a little middle of the line pause. This caesura marks a shift in tone from a high rhetoric metaphoric passage into some very direct promising. But when this ring parts from this finger, then parts life from hence. So you see, back again to when we have something direct and important to conclude a passage, we end up on those really simple single syllable words. Remember, what I really want you to do is be speaking these lines aloud. All this marking up is just preparation for that, because what you need to do is experience what it's like to express these thoughts and these feelings as a series of different people. Let's look now at how Portia responds to hearing that she is, after all, going to get her preferred choice of husband. How all the other passions fleet to air as doubtful thoughts and rash embraced despair. So she's actually rhyming there. Gracious intellectual philosophy, merciless argument, appropriate courtly sentiment, or genuine passion. You have to try out each character in order to experience their point of view, experience how they express themselves from within.
So next time someone asks you to form an opinion on The Merchant of Venice, you'll know to go to the script, pull out a series of likely speeches, mark them up, speak them aloud, and think about what it means that each of these very different, contrasting, sometimes paradoxical, certainly oppositional characters will all have something to say that shows you something of themselves and their own way of experiencing the world. And then think about whether it really is wise to go around trying to buy and sell people. And yeah, not everything needs two balanced points of view. Some things are just messed up.